Episode 174 of the world's number one small business marketing show. Listen in and find out why a one-word domain could be a business's biggest marketing asset. Plus, I help a listener avoid sounding like a schmuck.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day motivated business owners everywhere. It's Timbo Reid here, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you back inside the world that is small business big marketing. Righto, let's get stuck right in to some marketing GOLD. Now, I've just returned from a speaking engagement yesterday where I was lucky enough to share a stage with one Todd Sampson. Now, for overseas listeners, Tom is an Australian advertising guru, and I don't use that lightly. He's the CEO of Leo Burnett's. He appears on a top-rating advertising TV show called The Gruen Transfer. Plus, he's got an amazing personal story to boot. Now, in preparing for my presentation, I found myself constantly trying to second guess what Todd was going to cover and what he'd think about what I had to say in regards to advertising and marketing. Doing so got in the way of me just focusing on what I do best. That's sharing the marketing love. Anyway, presentation day arrived and Todd spoke mainly about leadership, not advertising. I wasted all that time and energy worrying unnecessarily, which got me thinking. How often do we, as motivated business owners, worry about our competition way too much? I'm thinking the answer is often. Instead, we should get on with telling our own story and nailing it. Alrighty, now we've got an action-packed show for you today, team. There's a fireside chat with the founder of Australia's newest private health business, and he has got some pretty strong views on one-word domains. I help a listener avoid sounding like a schmuck. That's her words, not mine. Plus, I share some very touching listener feedback. But first, let me tell you about how our very, very good friends at Net Registry can help you crank out some great marketing. You know how the online marketing world is full of acronyms? SEO, PPC, DNS, SEM. They keep going. Seriously, as a small business owner, my advice is not to worry about them. But do worry about marketing your business online. Motivated small business owners are running pay-per-click campaigns on Google, are optimizing their site for the search engines, and do have secure website hosting and great website design. Motivated small business owners are also not doing it all themselves. That's where Net Registry step in, guys. Net Registry exists to get your online marketing sorted. It's what they do. If you're not marketing your business online, then you're leaving money on the table, team. Check them out, netregistry.com.au, and tell them Timbo sent you. Okay, let's get stuck right in to today's fireside chat, and it is with Andy Sheats. And Andy is the CEO and founder of Australia's newest private health insurance company, health.com.au. And it was kind of interesting when he came across my desk, because I don't think it'd be any small feat to launch a private health insurance company in today's environment, in fact, in any environment. And Andy's very, very strong on the fact that your business name is your business's greatest marketing asset. He's of the view that, in fact, that no matter what your marketing budget, which is kind of interesting because health.com.au wasn't a cheap name to buy, a business owner needs to get their business name right first. So for health.com.au, this was paramount, he says, from a branding and marketing approach. In fact, it threw most of its startup marketing budget behind securing that exact domain name, health.com.au. Pretty amazing. And as I said, it was a lot of dough. So really enjoyed this chat, and I start off by congratulating Andy on a rather large award he recently won. Two things. Firstly, a belated congratulations on winning the Telstra 2013 Business Award for Startup in Australia, for Best Startup in Australia.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a huge thing for us to get that sort of endorsement.
no mean feat because you're up against some serious competition. And I watched your speech and I could tell that it meant a lot. Sometimes awards are funny things, but that's a serious award. That's one of the most significant awards, if not the most significant award a startup could win in Australia. So good on you. Now you're passionate about health, I am told. So it's no coincidence that you founded and run health.com.au. Has that always been the case for you, Andy, or did you get a wake-up call at some point?
Well, my background is really online businesses, and I think, but in my personal life, I've been very focused on my own health and fitness, and my wife, as it actually turns out, works in healthcare, I think together, these things sort of collided where my interest in online sort of batted up against an interest in health and just the horrible experience I was getting through my own health insurance provider. And I just thought, there's a better way of doing this. And over the course of a year or so, we built that out and launched it as health.com.au.
That's interesting. That whole "there's a better way" concept I want to go into in quite some depth. Not just yet, because I want to talk business name, the importance of business name first. But I think it's fascinating that you've entered such a crowded category, and I know you've got some good reasons for doing it. Now, let's talk business name, because that was the approach that I got from your PR company when they set up this interview, and I do think it's interesting. You strongly believe a business name is a business's greatest marketing asset. Why?
Well, I mean, it's the first thing that a customer sees when they hear about you generally is your name. And especially in an online world, if your name doesn't describe what you do, then no one knows. And and you've got options. Either you pick something that is descriptive or you pick something that's not, and then you have to actually build out all of the brand meaning around it. And if you're Amazon and you have 20 years to build out what does Amazon mean, that's one thing. But the other option is, books.com.au. And if you're starting a small business, I think it's obvious that you go for the one that's most likely to describe what you do, that people can find, that they don't forget. And that's been our sort of a big lesson for us.
Well, you've had that. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You own health.com.au. You worked at realestate.com.au. So I guess you've seen the power of it. Being the devil's advocate, Andy, it doesn't feel very emotional or very personal. It feels very category. It's almost like you've taken on the responsibility of building the category by owning health.com.au. There's no kind of... it's hard to emotionally attach to that.
But you don't often attach to the name of something. You attach to the broader experience. And so the name is, what are they? What do they stand for? How do I find them? Then you go to the website and we give you something that's a bit more engaging than a normal health insurance website experience, where we've, for example, we've put on, it doesn't look like a bank website. It looks more like a travel company website. So we've tried to draw people in with a more open-ended experience, but the first thing is getting them to the website. And I think that a very straightforward, descriptive, functional domain name is the way to do that.
Is there any underlying agenda there that you are attracting or hoping to capture those who go directly to the URL bar and type in the category.com.au?
Well, we're an Australian business. We are actually geographically bound to Australia because health insurance is it's a regulated business in Australia. Our product's only available to people in Australia. We want to be really clear that it's Australian. And I think that there are, if you're in a country that has a country descriptor, if you're a geographically bound business, it makes sense to use that. If you're an English health insurance business, you want to be healthinsurance.co.uk, not healthinsurance.com.
What about health? You've added insurance there.
Well, I mean, we've gone for health because we actually didn't want to be, we wanted to be a bit more exploratory than, healthinsurance.com.au. We wanted to actually have people willingly come to us. And we thought if we were, if it was longer, a longer name's harder to type in. It's easier to remember, but it's harder to type in. So we went for the shorter name that was a bit broader.
Just exploring that naming strategy, Andy. So, again, like I often say when I'm giving a keynote around marketing, we talk about names and people get their knickers in a knot sometimes about coming up with that perfect business name. And my view is that pre-1976, Apple was a piece of fruit, right? So all of a sudden, Steve Jobs is working in an apple orchard. He has to come up with a business name and, in fact, a name for one of his first computers, which was the Macintosh, which is also an Apple. So back then, that was just a crazy name. Now we go, oh, that's the most amazing brand in the world. But isn't it, couldn't you come up with just a business name, and it's really the energy that you put behind that makes the business great?
Well, look, while that's true, the context is entirely different. So Apple was a kit computer that was going to be sold to people he knew in his computer club. And so they knew him. They didn't care about the name. In an online world, you don't know everyone. They have to find you. They have to remember you. And you're marketing to people who, so I think if you've got the time, energy, and money to build a brand from scratch, that's great. Most small businesses don't. And I think that's actually the sort of limiter I'd put on it. There's a big argument you get in, and we did this when we started our business. There's this sort of circular thing of, what do we stand for? If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be?
Yep.
What does the business sound like, look like, feel like? How are the products configured?
You did a branding workshop.
Exactly. It's a branding circle. And until you decide on one of those things, you almost can't do the next. And, we were going around in that circle, and we thought, we got the name health.com.au, and we're like, right, that's our post in the ground. Everything else is going to be decided by that. And so, well, what do we stand for? Well, what would health.com.au as a great online health insurer stand for? That's what we're after. That is what we're after. Clear, open, transparent, accessible, straightforward. Okay, great. What should the website look like? Well, what are the best practices for how you sell and service online? That's what we're going to do. And all of a sudden we're aiming at an online market with a clear online offering. And all of those things fall into place because we picked the domain name, which became the brand, and then fed so many of these other decisions.
Yeah, right.
So, when you can have an internal argument with yourself about what's the perfect name, at the end of the day, I think in most cases that's an ego argument. It's you talking to yourself. The real thing is, if you talk to customers or potential customers, what brand works for them and means something to them. And that's, we just sort of tried to shortcut it and get straight to that.
Just want to put some closure around the naming strategy before we get stuck into what I call your secret sauce, entering that crowded marketplace and what does differentiate you. But I'm sure our listeners would be very interested to know how you went about buying such a short domain name. I funnily enough, just this week, Andy, I saw that podcast.com was for sale. And I thought, that'd be interesting. I'll make a little offer there. And I mean little. And he came back. My offer was embarrassing, but I knew I was never going to get it. And he came back and he said, no, it's worth now I've forgotten actually. Was it 1.1 million or was it 110 million? It was
something. It could be more than 1.1.
Yeah. I think it was bizarre. It was hilarious. I went back and I said, listen, when you do sell it, can you contact me? Because I'd love to interview you. So health.com.au. Who owned it? You don't need to name names, but who was sitting on it or using it. How much did they want, and what did you pay?
Well, the company, we bought it from a guy who had registered it originally when it first came out. So most short names, especially category names, are taken. But he had actually registered it for $15 a long time ago, and had a plan to use it because he runs a chain of physio practices.
Okay.
And he had a plan to use it. And it was always sort of on the workbench as one of the things he was going to do, but never really got around to it because he was running a business with, 100 people in it. And we just approached him with our idea, and he really liked what we were doing and planning to do, and had a number of offers in the past. And in fact, we bought it probably for less than he would have had offers for, because he liked what we were doing, and we just wanted the name. We didn't want to get in the way of his own business, and so we just made it easy. And I can't actually say what we paid for it, but it would be the price of a good car.
A good Australian car or a good European car?
I would say a good European sports car.
Okay.
A good European sports car.
Right. Okay. Well, I was at the Ferrari factory. I was at the Ferrari factory in Medina 2 weeks ago, so I know how much those things cost.
It wouldn't be that good. It wouldn't be. But I'd say maybe in the Porsche range.
Okay.
So, but look, I think there's a couple of things I would, if you wanted to, a couple of sort of key things I think on picking a name, especially if it's an online name. You want to make it memorable. Don't be too left of field that you freaked people out and left them wondering, but make it memorable, easy to say and write. It has to work online. So a descriptive functional domain name is really important. No dashes, underscores, .nets, .whatevers. If you're a constrained geographic business, .com.au or .co.uk. If you're aiming for global, .com. But don't go to those third tier, .nets. Yeah. No one can find them. No. Easy to search, easy to find. And lastly, descriptive of what you do. Those are the things that seem to work online.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Now, let's wrap some numbers around health.com.au. You launched 2 years ago. Can you tell us members, monthly revenue, number of staff, site visits? What have you created in those first 2 years?
So we started not quite 2 years ago, about 20 months ago. We started selling. We cover about 45,000 Australians now. That puts us on about 60 million revenue annualized. So based on this month, so it's the growth on that's been quite incredible. We're adding 1,000 to 2,000 a month new people. So the revenue line's growing. So we're about 30 staff in the health insurance business. We've also started, separate from health insurance, we've also started a car insurance business, which is a whole nother story and a very interesting one.
What's the domain?
So the health insurance, or the car insurance business is called Insurance Box. And the reason it's called Insurance Box is it's the first insurance in Australia that's based on, they call it telematics. So there's a device that plugs in under your dash so it's a box that plugs in under your dash, and it measures your driving behavior, and good drivers can save a lot of money.
Clever.
And so it's the Insurance Box.
I just went through the car insurance process only yesterday, and I would rather set fire to myself, but that's another story entirely. Let's get back to health insurance. So I'm interested. Let's get into the meat and three veg here, because a few months ago I interviewed a fellow, Dan, who started a company called Thank You Water. It's another bottled water company, Andy, and I thought, wow, how brave or how stupid, not sure. I needed to interview him, entering the bottled water category. No shortage of bottled water, but he did, and he's made a success of it. You chose to enter a crowded marketplace where there are seriously big players, Medibank Private, NIB, Bupa. These guys are spending significant, they're some of the biggest advertisers, I'm guessing, in Australia. So what's your secret sauce that makes health.com.au more appealing?
So, it's interesting. When we started this business, people would ask me exactly that question. Why are you going into health insurance? And people who were in health insurance were asking it because they're thinking this is quite a staid, boring industry. And people who weren't in health insurance were thinking it's really crowded. In fact, the main reason was, while there's two big players in Australia, and between them they're about 2/3 market share. After that, there's about 34 others who go quite small, actually. And yet, if you ask people on the street, they can only name their own insurance and maybe two others. And oftentimes, they don't even get the name right for their own insurance, and they don't even know the name of their own insurance. So it isn't one of these categories that has really strong brand naming. So for instance, Medibank, when we ask people what they have, about 2 in 10 say they have Medicare.
Yeah.
Right? They get the name entirely wrong, right?
Yeah.
Medibank being owned by the government.
Yes.
If you're under 30, that isn't necessarily a good connotation. And so, but anyway, that's an aside. My own experience as a customer of health insurance was, I got home from work one day and I was actually looking at this business and a couple of other ideas. My wife, who actually has a master's degree in hospital administration, she knows a little bit about health. She's trying to fill out a claim for our insurer, which is one of the big ones. It actually had her in tears. Like, she'd been working on this for hours, and it had her in tears. And in going through that experience with her and talking to her about it afterwards, I thought, really what this comes down to, the reason why it's so hard for her is there is an absolute lack of respect for the customer in the interaction that she's having. And that just won't cut it in today's consumer world, right? If someone acts like they don't like you, you're going to leave them. And the company that was customer with, they're losing 100,000 people a year. Wow. And I just thought there's always room for someone who's going to provide a great online service, really good customer service, great products, good value, but the differentiator being aimed at online, great online service, and great service. There's going to be room for someone to stand off to the edge of those big incumbents and just pick up the people who are falling out because they hate the experience they're having.
So if we were to put our finger on the major secret sauce, and we've talked, you've got straightforward products, you've talked of transparent value proposition, and really you keep coming back to really good customer service. Is it the really good customer service that you hope will set you apart now and into the future?
People pick the product because of pricing. They pick a product because pricing and it functionally fits what they need. They stay with it because of service and the service model, and they recommend it to their friends because of service, right? So there isn't any, you can't put it on one thing. It's going to be price and fit, and that's what gets them in. And then they stay because they like the service. And for us, it's actually, half of Australians anymore, they don't really want to go to your retail shop. They want to go on their iPhone, right? If it's a low value, repetitive transaction, they just want to go online and get it done with. They don't really want to call you and be treated nicely. They want to just go online and get it done with. So what we've done is we basically built out to make it that we can do, probably more online than any other health insurer. We make the experience really snappy and modern, but then we also have great actual face-to-face or, service. If you give us a ring, we've got great service. So you've got to have good online service backed up by good personal service. And, I think that's sort of the key to keeping people.
Listeners, I'm speaking to Andy Sheats, founder of health.com.au. Great discussion, Andy. And as you're telling me how you deliver that or what you aim to deliver, I'm thinking right now you and your wife experienced a really poor claims process and decided to solve it by starting health.com.au. You have felt that pain. You've seen your wife cry filling out that form. You have surrounded yourself, I'm guessing at the start, with a small team who you knew from other areas of the health industry, from what I've read. So they kind of got where you were coming from. You're small, you're boutique now, but what happens? How do you maintain that belief amongst a growing team of staff to ensure you keep delivering on your promise?
Well, our customers are quite different from the industry as a whole. So the industry as a whole, the average person who has health insurance is 40 years old. Our customers, the average person, is 28. So they're quite different in their needs, their expectations. They definitely want more online. Our staff are much more aligned with that customer set. And so
you're employing hipsters, are you?
We have a fair number of hipsters. We've got some beards going. We've got the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Abbotsford, so we're hipster.
Oh,
hipster
mate, you
central,
are right amongst the latte sipping,
We
corduroy
are.
wearing.
Although, as they call it now, the goat cheese eating circle. I don't know. I saw that the other day. But so our staff, the people we've hired, very much identify with our customers, and we've hired people who are smart and empathetic. When they're on the phone with someone, they're relating to them as a human should, as opposed to the way that a normal call center experience happens. And I think that's going to be scalable. I mean, we back them up with really great tools and training and their own sort of internal online support. Organize them up into teams that are generally pretty self-directed. We run our whole business using a process called agile, which is quite common in online businesses, but it actually brings a lot of communication and transparency to sort of the whole running of a business. And our group, the group of people we've hired, really identify with that, and it appeals to them. So I think that the problem of scaling it, that's not going to be such a big deal. I mean, look, obviously it's always going to be a big deal, but I think that's pretty achievable.
I had, in my last major corporate job, Andy, was marketing manager at Flight Centre, and I feel there's a bit of Flight Centre coming out in health.com.au. Quite
absolutely. You build
egalitarian,
you guys built a strong culture around what you were trying to achieve at Flight Centre. My CFO, actually, at realestate.com came from Flight Centre. You build a great
He would have
culture.
had a very, very sharp pencil.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, very aware of the culture that you're trying to create, and all of your customer service happens within the context of that culture. And that's what we're aiming for.
Do you have some kind of induction program for a new staff member to kind of get them across the brand?
Yeah, we have actually 3 people started yesterday, and they're sitting behind me actually at a table with a couple of the others. So that we have a process that they've got to, who are we? What do we stand for? What are we trying to do? But also, how's health insurance work? What are our customers trying to do? So there's a fair training process. It probably takes 3 to 6 months to actually get a person fully up and going.
Wow. What's your staff retention like?
We have had exactly 1 person quit out of 35, 36 hires.
Fantastic result.
And I mean, we've had people and they had to move back to other countries and things like that. But I mean, in terms of someone just saying, it's not for me, I'm leaving, we've only had 1.
Yeah, right. Now, listen, I want to just digress a little, because you touched on that fact that some people, when you said you were heading into the health insurance market, saying you were mad. And I've heard this before. I've heard successful small business owners talking about this. So, I imagine there was no shortage of family and friends saying you were crazy, leaving the cushy job at realestate.com. What advice do you have for small business owners listening who are also being told they should go back to their cushy corporate cubicle?
Look, I couldn't imagine anything worse myself. The last thing I want to do is go back to my cushy corporate job, because, I mean, look. In fact, most people don't have the option. You generally, it's so hard to get your head around starting a business that you don't generally do it until somebody pushes you. So, look, I just think good on it. I mean, people who actually take the initiative to get out and do something, why would you go back? And as far as being crowded, I mean, how many plumbers are there? Well, there's still room for another one.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
I think any business, anyone listening, I know there's a lot of people in corporate who do listen to this show as a kind of escape. It's almost like an escapism. And I know one of the things they think is, there's already heaps of people doing that. And I just think that's a lame excuse, because you just got to figure out how they're doing it and do it better. Yeah, I mean,
there's lots of people doing it, but how do you do it, right? So there's lots of plumbers, but how are you going to be different from them? Not just better, but different. And if you've got an angle, if it's something you care about deeply, and you've got a serious point of view that you can bring. And if you think the world's going to be better because you did it, well, then you've got to do it. You know, I mean, that's the test to me. If you ask yourself, will the world be better if I do this and it's successful, and you can't say yes, well, then you probably shouldn't do it. But if in our case, there were 35 health insurers, and we really thought that there was a space for someone to provide a great online service, a more contemporary cut at health insurance. I mean, I didn't mention this before, but the last new health insurer was 1977. A lot's changed since then.
The last new health insurer. Sorry, what do you mean by that? You mean like starting from scratch in Australia?
So in Australia, the last new health insurer, the last fully kind of new health insurer to be registered by the government to start was Medibank in 1977.
All the other ones that have come in, like I know, like Bupa came from overseas, but like
now Bupa bought a bunch of old insurers. So Bupa bought up a couple of old. Bupa is actually the British United Provident Association. Funny enough, so
love a good acronym.
So Bupa, and they've bought up, which is kind of an odd name, I guess. But in any case, they've bought up a couple of old insurers in Australia. So they're old. A lot of them are rebranded old mutuals or things that grew out of unions. So there isn't a lot of new thinking that's come to this market. And that's really what that's where we thought, hey, that's what we can add. And that's how we can make it better. And in doing that, we're not out to just, there's this chain of people who are, we're out to disrupt and destroy an industry. That's not us. We're out to lift the bar and make it better. And how I said before, our average customer is 28. Well, in 12 years, they'll be 40, right?
Yeah.
But their expectations when they're 40 are going to be very different from the ones from today, right?
Yeah.
So our objective is to be providing that sort of service, be the first ones providing it, be the best at it. And I know that the other 35 insurers are going to follow us along, but our objective is to be better than that and lift the bar.
I think it's interesting that the way you entered the market was by challenging some of the established conventions of the category as opposed to niching. You've kind of niched almost by default in that the way you've packaged up the brand is targeting a younger person. But and I do know that from a marketing point of view, you sponsor some cycling events and a state cricket team. But you didn't go down that specific niche path.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it very broad. I mean, we're on our niche is people who prefer to do things online, which is pretty big, right? And that is probably the fastest growing niche. Look, it's the market. In 5 to 10 years, that's the market. And that's why we targeted it.
Despite you say your average customer is 28, are you still getting sign-ups from the oldies?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 46-year-olds like me or the 60-year-olds?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we have our product. We have a whole set of products that are aimed at different life stages, all the way from young to empty nesters, and we have people signing up at all age ranges. But the difference is that they generally, there are a lot of people who are older who are extremely online savvy, and so we're aiming for them as well. We're not aiming at young people; we're aiming at online people.
Yeah, interesting. And they bust a myth right there, which is online people are young people. Well, I mean, that's a 10-year-old myth. And I posted a photo on the Small Business Big Marketing Facebook a few months ago, which I was sitting next to two lovely old ladies on an airplane, and they would have been at least 75, and they were both engrossed in their iPads for the entire trip. So,
absolutely. I mean, some of the most online savvy people I know are in their 60s and 70s. And, that's just where the world's going. So that's where, we're aiming where the world's going, not where it came from.
Andy, I just want to finish up talking specifically about the website. You are an online business. Getting people to that website and having them convert, and I'm guessing convert means request a quote. Ideally, in an ideal world, it's to take out a policy, but I think the real world would say at least make an inquiry or request a quote. Could you maybe share your top 5 or however many you've got, things that you do on health.com.au to ensure strong conversion?
Well, one of the things that we do is we've recognized that the sales cycle for health insurance is quite long. So we start talking to people who aren't in the market to purchase, because it may be 6 months to a year before they come into kind of the space where they're buying. And so one thing that we've done is we've started, for instance, engaging in the blog. So the blog is great for SEO, for pulling people in on topics that they're interested in at that time, and then nurturing that. I wouldn't go as far as to say relationship, because we don't know them, but nurturing that interaction until they come to market. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing, is recognizing that if you made this a highly transactional site, they're not going to come on here and just buy every time, and starting that interaction well before they're in the market. The second thing that we've done is if you go to the website, we've built it out in such a way that it's more open-ended than many health insurance or bank websites. It's designed in such a way to engage someone, to drag them in, rather than to say, oh, I don't have, I'm not going to buy that, so I'm going away. Yep. So we've tried to keep people on. The next thing that we've done is recognize that oftentimes they actually don't want to be on a website. They either want to call you or do live chat. So I think we might have been the first, or one of the first. I think maybe the first, I'm guessing, health insurer in Australia to use live chat. That's actually quite successful for us, especially for people who are considering buying, but they're still not engaged enough that they still want to remain anonymous. And that's been really useful in dragging people in.
Every business owner I speak to that has installed live chat on their site has just said, where has it been all my life? Yeah, and we've gone through 4 different live chat tools to find the one that works best for us. We like many people, we didn't make the full commitment up front because we were a bit skeptical that people would use it. But each time we take the next step, we find the level of engagement grows, and so we're now on kind of a big grown-up one, and it's amazing. It really is a great interaction for customers, and then I think those are the main things that we do on the website. We haven't gone for the hard sell, and that's on purpose. But we have made it really clear, if someone goes to the website and they're ready to buy, it's easy to do it. Yeah, it is. I mean, you got get a quote. There's no shortage of, call to action. I mean, it's everything. I mean, the amount of small businesses I see without a call to action on their website is extraordinary. And I think there's something to be learnt by going to health.com.au and seeing how clear the call to action is without, it hitting you over the head.
Yeah, you've got to say, you've got to ask for the sale, but you can't scream it.
Yeah. Andy, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know our listeners will have too, the motivated small business owners that listen in. There is so much to be learnt by a business that's 100% focused online, whether you are offline or online. And I really thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you so much. I agree. I think that there's, even for an offline business, it's important to recognize that, you are, you said this to me earlier, right? You are what Google says you are. Mm-hmm. And the most offline business is still being found online. And I think it's really important for small businesses to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Nice to chat.
Wow, how much marketing gold was dripping from that little fireside chat with Andrew from health.com.au. Now, before I give my top 5 learnings, and boy, there was a whole lot more, but I've got it down to 5, let me quickly tell you about Swiftly.com. And I say quickly because that's exactly what Swiftly is all about. Small design fixes real fast. Swiftly is ideal for altering your business card details, logo alterations, banner ad updates, even photo touch-ups. And who doesn't love a good photo touch-up? You simply upload the artwork that needs fixing, tell them what needs doing, and boom, 1 hour later, it's done. All for just $15. Check them out, swiftly.com. That's SWIFTLY.com. Righto, as I said, there are top 5 learnings that I've taken away from my chat with Andy. Number 1, that whole thing about a memorable domain name. Make it easy to say, easy to write. It's got to work online, and avoid those .nets and .infos and all those other things. Go for something that's nice and easy. So love that. No, and it's not always easy to get. You name a business and then try and get a domain name that matches, or you get a domain name and you try and get the business name that matches. It is good if you can, I reckon. Number 2, there is a lack of respect for the customer out there, and I love the way Andy is building a business that fully respects what the customer wants and what the customer needs. And they are 2 different things, but he's getting inside the customer's mind and really delivering solutions that hit them between the eyes, so to speak. Number 3, employ people that have empathy for your customers. Like Andy's employing those 21-year-old hipsters, and I love that. I love the fact that he's employing people that really understand where their customers are coming from, and it can only lead to a good conversation to be had between customer and business. Number 4, understand the length of your sales cycle and build your marketing around it. How many times do I hear business owners saying, I tried this marketing and I didn't get a result, and they're kind of expecting a result there and then, but they're not understanding the fact that, their prospects aren't necessarily ready to buy right now at that point when they're running out, when the business owner's putting out their marketing. So understand that length of the sales cycle, and you kind of got to be there. That's one of the great things about content marketing, is that it allows you to be there often, without actually having to spend a fortune. And frequency is everything. Number 5, look for problems to solve. And Andy talks about seeing his wife crying at the kitchen table, trying to complete that form, and he saw a problem. And I wonder how many problems we are missing by not having our problem radar on. I think I've said it before, I'll say it again, as business owners, we are problem solvers. And that's a great example of someone seeing a problem and doing something about it, creating a whole business around it. That's it. That's my top 5 learnings from having a lovely fireside chat with Andy Sheats of health.com.au.
Hi Tim, it's Kelly Edwards from A Flourishing Life here. As a psychologist and mindfulness meditation teacher helping individuals and groups regain flourishing lives, I'm wondering how to spread the word of the almost too good to be true benefits of mindful practice and what it can bring to people's health, happiness and well-being without seeming to be pushy. Can you help?
Feeling like a schmuck. That is the headline right there. Kelly, thank you so much for that question. It's a great question. There are many business owners who feel the same way. They feel as though they're forcing the sales pitch onto unsuspecting prospects. And it doesn't need to be that way. Let me give you kind of 5 little insights or tips onto how to avoid feeling like a schmuck. Number 1, focus on sharing the benefits of mindful practice. Like you already mentioned that word, so really lean in to the benefits that are derived from practicing what it is that you preach, and believe in those benefits. So this is number 2, really believe in those benefits. If you believe that what you offer has a positive impact on someone's life, then you shouldn't feel like a schmuck. Like when I produce this show, my mindset, my little kind of, before I hit record, my mindset is, hey, I'm about to produce something that is going to help someone in some way, shape or form. In the sense of this show, I am here to help business owners around the world crank out great marketing. So I never want to feel like a schmuck. The minute I feel like a schmuck, I am going to stop, because, I want to be producing quality information that solves a problem. So believe in what you do and just really lean into it, Kelly. Number 3, pushy only comes when you're trying to force. So, it's the minute again, like the minute you're trying to force something, it's wrong. So you either need to stop doing it, or what I'd say, pivot and look at what you're trying to push in a different way, because, there's push marketing and there's pull marketing, and I'm all about pull marketing. I'm all about creating a business's marketing strategy that is all about helping a business kind of look very helpful. And to that point, I have just finished reading a book called Utility, and I'm going to suggest you read it too. It's Y-O-Utility, Utility by Jay Baer, B-A-E-R. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, and it's all about being a helpful company. Help is what you need to do, he says, and sell is the opposite. You need to become a helpful business. And he defines utility as this. He says utility is marketing upside down. Instead of marketing that's needed by companies, utility is marketing that's wanted by consumers. Utility is massively useful information provided for free that creates long-term trust and kinship between your business and your customers. How good's that? You want to create utility. And by the way, forum member Danny Thompson put me onto that book. It's excellent. So actually, that's my number 5 tip, Kel, is to go ahead and read Utility. I think we all should. It's a really good book. So if you believe in what you're doing, if you lean into the benefits, if you have the mindset that you are there to help your prospects, your customers lead a better life, which is what mindfulness practice does, because I do it, then you shouldn't feel like a schmuck at all. This is a schmuck-free zone, Kel. Get on with cranking out some great marketing. Hope that helped. Hey, by the way, if you want some marketing love on an ongoing basis, of course, continue to tune into this show. But I'm also inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum every day of the week answering your marketing questions. So head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, hit the forum button, and you can join for $49 a month. You know, like, there is so much marketing gold being discussed in that forum. It is quite amazing. So feel free to head over there. I'd love to see you inside what I'd call the inner circle. Next week, I have got Dean Ramler. He is the founder of Milan Direct, which is Australia's largest online furniture retailer. And he is from he's third generation furniture retailer, the first to actually take the business online. Great story. And a very big thank you to the folks at Net Registry who get your online marketing sorted. Until next week, team, may your marketing be the best marketing. It's Timbo Reid signing out. See ya.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
All right, as usual, I share a listener review or two at the back end of the show. This one is from Brett Morrison, who's the operations manager at Paint Place up in Queensland. And Brett, long-time listener of the show. So great to hear from you again, Brett. He says, hey, Timbo, have been listening to your last 20 or so podcasts, and they are very, very good. Thank you, Brett. That's very kind. You offer so much to us small business people and are a constant when we feel we are doing it tough. Mate, that's tick that box. I certainly set out to do that. I know that there's not every business owner out there is cranking through stuff at the moment. Some are doing it tough, and I hope I can be a shimmering light there in the distance sometimes. He goes on to say, we have recently bought a store in Gladstone, about an hour out of Rocky, and I bang on a Small Business Big Marketing show and get some gold. I really can't wait to take my 2 or 3 trips a week to catch up on your shows. Hey, mate, that's good. I get people excited to hop in the car. That's what I do. Can't wait to get a chance to join the forum, as it sounds like the way to go. Brett, seriously, mate, don't wait. Get in there. There's no better time than now to start the marketing conversation in your business, and the forum's a great way to do it. Brett says, keep up the shows and keen for you to pump out 2 a week. Well, mate, I'm working on it. I am working on it. Let's see where that takes us in the coming weeks. Thanks for being there, Timbo. Love you, mate. You do make a difference, Brett Morrison. Mate, touching. Very, very touching, Brett. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your words, and I appreciate the long-time support that you've given to the show, as I do with anyone listening to this show. Love your work. See you next time. Bye.
Smallbusinessbigmarketing.com